Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MPF webinar, our first of the year. And Happy New Year. Hope everyone is safe and healthy, and looking forward to a new year. A new year. I think we all
finally
turn the page. Uri and I, as we were preparing for the program, we're talking about how this is our 26th. And we were talking about how when we started, we thought, oh, this is just going to be a couple of weeks, couple of months to bide the time because
flatten the curve.
This coronavirus, we'll flatten the curve. Everything will be fine by summer.
Yeah, it will be, John. We never said which summer.
Here we are. Ay, ay, ay. But just when we think it's safe to crawl out of our caves and get back on airplanes and go to conferences, it's like not so fast.
It is. I remember, John, we were talking in the beginning, and just a few weeks. Oh, I was a very big optimist. I said 4 weeks, 5 weeks top. And
right.
In fact, we'll talk about some of our events, but I think we called the series in the beginning, right? Getting through the crisis, right?
We called it Responding to the Coronavirus Pandemic. And no one calls it coronavirus anymore, And then we kind of rebranded it because we got tired of that bug, symbol, the coronavirus, And so we called it Law Firm of the Future. And so we've been carrying on. This is our 26th, as I mentioned. It's hard to believe when you go back and look at the body of work. So we're gonna showcase some of our best of show, and showcase some of that data, because Lord knows we produce data, and then going forward, what we would advise smart law firm leaders to be thinking about as we approach 2022, and where you want to kind of align your priorities. And we'll do polling questions as we always do. When folks registered, we captured some data there as well. And our registration today stands at about 125. Slightly below average, but a good turnout, so we're pleased. What's new with you, Uri? We haven't talked that much through the holidays. Did you get away?
Busy.
Go places,
One of the at least one of my personal challenges with COVID is I feel like we're constantly in emergency. So no, I don't take vacations anymore. I'm not proud of it, but it's just a fact.
I went and visited the family down in South Florida, drove, and came on back, and managed to get to a bowl game, one of the bowl games here in Atlanta,
one of them,
Peach Bowl.
One of them.
And in hindsight, that was probably a big super spreader event, But
there was a college football win recently, John, wasn't there? Wasn't there a big upset recently? Wasn't there a college football upset recently?
Well, if you're referring to Monday's contest between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Georgia Bulldogs, I'm in Atlanta, as most of y'all know, and boy, they're happy. They're closing schools on Friday and having a parade. So they're excited, the Bulldog Nation. So let me go ahead and start. Is our recording going? I just want to make sure we got the recording. I think yes, we are. We are going. So let's get started. We're at the top of the hour. So welcome everyone to our latest installment of the MPF webinar series. This is our 26th program, and we're calling this one The Impact of COVID on the Profession and How Smart Law Firm Leaders Are Responding. And as always, I'm here with my friend and colleague, Uri Gutfreund. Uri, good to be with you.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, let's jump right in. We got a lot to cover as we were putting this together, putting the finishing touches. It's like, wow, a lot of slides. We have about 60 slides. We're going to roll fast. And then our traditional polling questions we're going to ask toward the end. So those of you who've come to our programs, sort of gotten a sense for our rhythm, be patient. We'll get to our live audience polling questions toward the end. Before we jump in, some housekeeping announcements, what we're up to this year at the Managing Partner Forum. We're going to carry forth with these webinar series. They have exceeded our wildest expectations. Attendance is averaging anywhere between 150 to 180. And they love the interaction, the fast pace, the data we generate. So this program will be no exception. And we're going to carry forth with these webinars. They're absolutely free. They're archived on our website. We'll walk through a little thing how to find them if you haven't found your way to our archive, because we're drawing on that archive to produce all this data for today's program, for much of today's program. We're going to move these webinars, however, to the third Wednesday of the month going forward, the third Wednesday. So the idea is we're going to get out of these 3-day holiday weekends that sometimes interfere with our pattern after the 4th of July or New Year's and that sort of thing. So we're going to carry forth 2 o'clock Wednesdays for the coming year. We'll do virtual conferences. We can guarantee those. We've done 4 of them. We're going to do 2 more this year, one in March, one toward the end of the year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get on track with some in-person programs. A couple of times we've carried forth with in-person programs and had to cancel them. I'm tired of doing that. So hopefully we'll be coming back with our leadership conference in May here in Atlanta. It is sold out, but if you're interested in registering, let us know, because there will probably be a few cancellations. Heck, we might not even be able to produce it. But if you're interested in coming, reach out to us. We get about 120 managing partners, mostly U.S., Canadian, but more and more folks coming in from overseas. We do a fall symposium in Chicago. Hopefully that will come live this fall. We'll drill down on a topic, and based on the feedback we're getting, we're probably going to talk about associate retention, associate development. We're hearing loud and clear that this has become challenging. The great resignation we read about and hear about on the news, it is real. And what are we doing to engage and retain our talent? We do our newsletter, we got the website, all those good things. So hopefully you're availing yourselves to these resources. This is our most recent fall symposium. It was supposed to have happened in Chicago. That didn't happen last October. So we went virtual. And if you're interested in the on-demand recording, the handouts, that's available through our website. Check that out. We covered succession planning, which is also an important thing firm leaders are paying attention to. Our website, there's our homepage, but our archive. If you go across our green bar, you'll see a download for webinars. And when you click on that, lo and behold, you'll come to this landing page. Whereas when you scroll down, you'll see, dozens of these webinars. For each one, you can click through and hear these live recordings. They're all archived, and the handout materials. The handout materials include all the polling data, the registrant survey data, the handouts we pulled together. So it's all there. This will be our 26th program. So if you haven't already checked out our archives, we'll send you a link to this in the follow-up. But it is all there and hopefully serving as a helpful resource to you and your law firm. Today, we have 125, lots of data, audience polling questions, the question box. Uri, people know how to use this stuff by now, but remind us if we have questions, how people can type those in.
On your toolbar on the right, you can pull out where it says questions. Feel free to type in your questions. I'll be minding that during the program, and we'll try and answer your questions and get you back into the program as soon as we can. So good.
And don't be shy, because if you have a question, chances are there's a few other people on today's call that have a very similar question. Next webinar, February 16th, third Wednesday, and what we're working toward is a webinar that's going to look at what's coming up at the ABA Tech Show, which will be occurring in March, still scheduled to be in person in Chicago. And we've invited one of the co-chairs of that tech show to give us a little sneak preview. What's going on in the world of technology, what's coming up at the ABA Tech Show. So that should be a fun program. and we'll carry forth with the rest of our webinars through the end of the year. Here's our first polling question. This is more of a test. You guys know the drill. And this speaks to firm size. So if you would, please let us know your firm size. It's only Uri and me on today's call, but we always like to know the sizes of the firms we're chatting with. So if you would, go ahead, vote early, vote often. And let me, we got about 85% of our participants in, and here's where we are on firm size. And that's fairly representative of the types of folks we draw to our programs. We are very focused on mid-law, which I define as about 25 to, say, 150 law firms. So there we are on the polling technology. When you're registered, we asked, how'd your firm do last year? And here's what you said. Pretty darn well. Uri, surprised?
Not surprised because we've been hearing it, but in the context of the pandemic, yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, this is excellent performance. I mean,
now we didn't define financial performance. Is it profits per equity partner? Is it overall firm revenue? Is it revenue per lawyer? We just asked a very open-ended, how did your firm perform financially last year? And the sky is not falling. No. Law firms keep just plugging along, and you throw in some PPP money, times have been pretty good. I think much to the surprise of many of us when this first hit about 2 years ago. We asked, what are your projections for this year compared to last? Uri, any surprises here?
Even better. You know, I think the sentiment of even better is really, we're kind of used to this now. We're kind of used to this rhythm, and it can only get better now. So I think this is indicative of what we've seen for the last 2 years. Surprising considering the pandemic, but yeah, fantastic results.
You know, when we ask managing partners to predict the future, they're a pretty bullish group. Pretty optimistic group. Every time we ask these sorts of questions, resilient, optimistic, which is great because that's what leaders need to be. You know, glasses half full, things are great, not unrealistically so, but you know, you're beating the drum, rallying the troops, and if you're not enthusiastic about the future, it's hard to expect your followers to get very excited. We presented a list of 6 things we're seeing mid-sized firms focus on, and we asked what your firm's top priority is for the coming year, and looky there, associate development, associate retention, engagement. Hard to do when we're working remotely. We're going to bring some programming to you directly on this topic in response to this very question, because associate retention and engagement is on the top of the mind of many leaders of smaller and mid-sized law firms. Marketing traditionally held the top spot. Uri, we were commenting how this is flipped a little bit since COVID hit us. This focus on associate development and retention.
We've been asking this question for years at almost every program. Associate retention usually didn't make the top 5. Here is number 1 by a huge factor. I mean, things have changed. Many of you are probably thinking, what happened? But it has changed in a big way. So, John, this is a shocking compared to historical, but yeah, we're hearing this everywhere. Every firm has this challenge now.
The competition for talent. And so often mid-sized firms have a hard time competing compensation vis-a-vis big law. You know, when the big firms come calling on your up-and-comers and offer them a bump of 50, 100. Uri, you were sharing with me the 5-year associate at one of the New York firms leaving for, what was the number? $400,000 a year?
430.
It's crazy. So if we can't compete on compensation, there are other ways we can build the culture that will attract and retain young lawyers who aren't all about the money, but they've come to realize they value more than just dollars. The collaboration, the mentoring, the training, the development. The unique thing about your firm that might overcome that temptation to leave for a big bump in salary. So there we are in terms of our registrant survey results. So what we did to prepare for this program, we did last year, Uri, you'll recall, we got dressed up in black tie and had glasses of champagne and offered our big, bold predictions and such and had some fun with it. We thought we'd change gears a little bit and look back through the body of work, 25 webinars, this is number 26, and maybe pull out some best of show. Because some of these webinars, I think, were really, really interesting and thought-provoking. And so we went through the archive and culled, between Uri and I, what we thought were the best of show. When this thing first hit, look at the date on this, April 1. This was one of the first webinars we did. In fact, I think it was the second. And we decided to invite Larry Richard, our psychologist friend. The herding cats guy, Lawyer Brain is his consultancy. And if you haven't read his work, it's great stuff. But we asked Larry to join us and talk about the psychology of leading and what was then a crisis, times of crisis. Law firm, everybody's going home, what's happening? And people are freaking out. And so we asked Larry to talk to us about how should a firm leader respond. And we invited him to come back again this past summer. This is now, we're 15 months into it. And, a lot of people are getting tired of this and getting a little stressed. And how do we mitigate some of the psychological impacts, this COVID thing, this isolation, this protracted pandemic? What do we do to rally the troops and keep people engaged? There's Larry's bio. That picture was taken a while ago. I tease Larry over his picture, but he is a thought leader, one of my mentors, and I really hone in on what he has to say. During his webinar, we asked, and this was the one last summer, have you noticed any changes among your people in the last couple of months? Pick all that apply. A lot of unrest in the camp, anxiety, irritability, checking out. Geez, this isn't good for the culture. This isn't good for the firm. What should I do as a firm leader? We asked Larry if a firm leader could pick up a tool and do some things to help mitigate this psychological damage. From this list, what would you pick? This is what our audience said. Well, we're going to keep people's spirits up. We're going to have fun and games and whatever we're going to do. And Larry said, that's nice, but that's really not what you should be doing right now. What you should be working on as a firm leader is social support, sociability. And he talks about game nights. He talks about just reaching out and calling people and ask how they doing, what can we do to help? But focusing on getting your people together best you can remotely and frequently through a variety of different type programs. So that was a little bit kind of a disconnect, what people thought were the right things to be doing as firm leaders versus what the world's leading psychologist on the lawyer personality is suggesting a firm leader should be focused on. Uri, feel free to provide your comment. We decided I would kind of take the driver's seat in this one. You'd kind of play color commentator. But any observation, comment you want to make, just jump right in anytime.
Well, it's just incredible how much of what Larry shared with us early in the pandemic, where we thought it was a temporary, it really applies till today. And maybe because we're constantly going up and down in the pandemic, but it seems like all of what he had advised us back then rings so true today. And I think, for those in the audience who want to listen to the entire program, it's definitely worth, because the issues we talked about, they apply today, maybe even more so as this thing drags on. People don't think it's going to be a quick fix. So this stuff is good, really good, and it's a good program to listen to in its entirety.
Larry is brilliant. He's been entrenched in the legal profession globally for decades. And I just think very astute, knows what he's talking about. And as you say, Uri, much of what he said early on, sure enough, we've seen it pan out.
Yep.
And there's a lot of lawyers that poo-poo this psychological culture, mumble jumbo, kumbaya stuff. But you know what? It's really, really important that people feel valued, appreciated, connected, engaged, more important than ever. We asked other polling questions here about reaching out to your people. Are you doing that on a regular basis? 75% of managing partners said, yeah, we are. I don't believe it. I don't think there's nearly as much outreach as this survey question, the responses would lead us to indicate. I think it's so important to reach out just to touch base with your people. You're doing okay. Anything the firm can do to help, that sort of thing. Doesn't cost you a thing, but it demonstrates vulnerability, humanness, caring, empathy, emotional intelligence. Really important concepts that I think law firm leaders should embrace. Reach out to your people. Let them know you care. Ask them how we can help. Some managing partners, I think, feel that's an invasion of privacy. I don't think so. I think it's important. Your people are your most important asset. Your clients are your second most important asset. And here is our guidance. Keep the steady course. People, all eyes are on you. Don't freak out. Stay aware of what's going on. Communicate some more. And town hall meetings, those outreaches, the ongoing practice group meetings, trying our best to maintain this engagement with our people. And let's not forget about our support staff. Uri, anything you might add to this list that you would advise a managing partner of a mid-sized law firm?
Well, I think the one thing that's changed, I think, and that was something that Larry didn't necessarily think or know, because nobody knew, which is think strategically. I think we kind of see this as going on for a while. So in terms of these lines of communication, one of the things, John, you always talk about for other reasons is practice groups. Well, if you think about it, practice groups are small groups within the firm. This is another reason to focus on that, because your practice leaders can take this as well. So that's part of that strategic thinking. To keep communicating, not just you, but entire management structure. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I love teams of lawyers, practice groups, industry focused. Yeah. I like industry practice groups where we have a team across offices, senior, junior. Hell, let's include some of our support staff on these practice groups. They're interacting with clients. They've got good ideas too. And it helps engage them if they're invited to practice group meetings. So keep these things rolling, make them fun, lively, entertaining. Not meetings just to have meetings, training your practice group leaders how to engage their teams. So often these group leaders are appointed based on seniority or the book of business, different skill sets than being a good team leader. And leading by example and running a good meeting and engaging and exciting your team. We then did a webinar on culture. I'm all about the culture, as I think most folks who've come to these programs would sense. And Terry Eisner, he's with Jaffe, been very involved in managing partner programs for a long time. And we invited Leah Nelson, a relative newcomer to our program. She's a psychologist. She's out of California, does a lot of group, team performance stuff. And we invited Terry and Leah to talk to us about culture in that post-pandemic world.
Well, it was already the summer, John. It was
Yeah,
already.
I mean, that was 2 summers ago, right?
It
And we
was.
were looking at the post-pandemic world. We haven't seen it yet, but hopefully it'll come soon. And here's what our audience shared with us: is culture important? And 90% said, "You betcha, it's very important." And your firm has a culture, whether you've defined it or not, whether you work on it or not. It has a culture, one of caring, one of empathy, one of team, or not. So culture, have you defined it? Are you working on building it, enhancing it? Because it really is the differentiator, just what distinguishes your firm from the firm across the street. We did a word cloud when people registered. And when these words come, we can almost predict the words a group of managing partners are going to use to describe the culture at their firms. And collaborative and collegial invariably are 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Team, firm, not a collection of individuals working independently of one another. I want to connect with people and feel valued and a part of the team. And I often, bring sports analogies. We all can't be the star quarterback. We need blocking and tackling and offense and defense and trainers off the field. But we work together, we find our lanes, and we could be like the University of Georgia Bulldog. Did I just say that? I went
You
to the
did
University of
out
Florida.
loud.
We don't like them. But man, there was one of the ESPN shows leading into this national championship talked about a psychologist that the coach at University of Georgia brought in to almost set up practice groups within the University of Georgia football team. They really got to know each other at the human level. They cried. They bonded, and they interviewed a number of the players, because at first, these are rough and tough football players. Now you're telling me about the psychological mumbo. Oh my God, they talked about what an impact it made. It really taught me to value my fellow team members and listen to them and empathize. So if this can work for a football team, some of these concepts might be brought to bear very effectively to many law firms on today's call. Employee satisfaction. Are we measuring that? And here's the data. I got a couple of clients who've set up social indices, which is kind of cool, to really tune into their people and build the culture that attracts and retains them. We asked about grooming future firm leaders. Now, in the spirit of engaging our young leadership, our young lawyers, our succession plan, I would think we'd want to identify and groom future leaders. Tom Brady's going to retire someday. He's the quarterback for the Tampa Bay team. He's 43 years old. There's going to be a time when he can't carry it on anymore. And have we groomed and identified the next quarterback in waiting? Huge room for improvement here, folks. Psychological assessments. I'm working with a firm now. We're doing disc profiles, which is kind of cool. I just came back from a firm in Canada. They had just gone through disc profiles, and they were all talking about how great they were to help us better appreciate one another and work together more effectively, value one another. And these disc profiles are kind of cool. And doing something like that at your firm retreat. Myers-Briggs. Larry, our psychologist friend, talks about these psychological assessment tools. Corporate America uses them routinely to recruit, identify, slot talent and such. Law firms, it seems to be a very rare exception where firms are willing to embrace psychological assessment to put them into play. So we're a proponent. And firms that do these will report, man, this, it's not perfect. It's not going to solve all our problems. But man, is it a nice tool to affect culture and team and better teamwork among our high performing attorneys. Uri, what do you think of psychology? You're a pretty hard nosed guy from New York. What do you think of these psychological assessments?
I like them. My only comment on that program and the succession program we did, which is identifying the right leader based on the profile, based on decisions at the firm, communicating that to the team. Today's workforce wants to know what the future is like. And if the firm doesn't identify the leader and then doesn't communicate the leader, puts them really behind the 8 ball, because that's the high performers don't want to wait around to see how the firm turns out. We need to have a strategy and share that strategy, because people really want that. That's part of that workforce. It's one of the things that today's workforce really wants to know. Where is the firm going? We certainly don't want uncertainty, but now give me real certainty. Tell me where we're going. Who's going to lead the firm in the future when my career is really going to take off? So we've heard a lot of that.
And if you're setting up teams and practice groups and such, think about who that leader is, because the success of the team will depend largely on the effectiveness of its leader. And so often I see it, I'm sure you do as well, Uri, we appoint the seniors and the lawyers with the big books to lead the litigation section or the healthcare group or whatever it is, and they may or may not be haven't even an appetite to be a leader. So make sure you get the right folks slotted in there. Give them some training. Give them some support. It'll have a huge impact. Registrant question. Here we moved into compensation. And I'm going to jump. I got to pick up the pace here. As always, we try to fit a lot of stuff in our 1 hour program. Compensation, fascinating topic. Uri and I, this was in September of last year, and it was just the two of us, and we asked 20 polling questions, one after the next, after the next, after the next, looking at trends in compensation systems. So if you're looking at tweaking your system, curious as to what other mid-sized firms are doing to adjust their systems, this is a great program, chock full of timely, relevant data. And I think we had 150 mid-sized law firms on this call. It's a hot topic, COVID or no COVID. Have you made significant changes to your comp system in the last 5 years? And 1/3 of them said, yeah, we have. I mean, the comp system is not something that rests in stone and, that's it, set. It should evolve. It should adapt. It should encourage and reward the behaviors we're looking for from our people. If we're looking for sharing and teamwork and mentoring, it's not billable stuff. And how do we find ways to measure, recognize, and reward these non-financial contributions? So often we're focused on the billable hours, the collections, the origination, and lose sight of concepts like citizenship and mentoring and leadership, which are extremely important firm building contributions. We asked if you're trending more subjective or more objective in the last 5 years, and we're seeing the trend toward objectivity. I think it's important to look at objective contributions, but these more difficult to quantify contributions are important too, and finding ways to factor them in. I just had a group, we sought to objectify the subjective contributions, created a little metric, set a matrix, and ask each partner to rate the other partners on these various contributions and factor that in to compensation. Uri, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, John, just on that last slide, I would just take a slightly different tact. 1/3 have toyed with their compensation, and while I agree with you that's an important thing to do, it's important to keep thinking strategically. I think sometimes firms missed the boat a little bit from the partner's perspective. A change in the compensation should be done very thoughtfully, with buy-in, with a process. I know you get hired from firms to help them figure this out, but just to really go through that process, because from the partner's perspective, it's changing the rules. Partner's been there for 20 years.
Oh, well, they're very interested.
Right. They're very interested. So
Yes.
while I agree that they should be changed to align with the firm's goals, I think there needs to be recognition, and sort of like when you run your retreats, it has to be sort of based on buy-in altogether, that we're all going to change the rules, because the last thing you want to do is change the rules in the middle of the game, and you'll have some of your really dissatisfied partners and say, wait a second, I built my practice in a certain way because that's what the firm incentivized, and that's incentives are what drives behavior. So it's important to do, but I would just add that it's important to do very, very methodically, really well thought out, not just willy-nilly. The comp.
Agreed. It needs to be very, very deliberate, perhaps gradual, phasing in changes,
great.
so people have a chance to evolve and adapt to it.
Yeah.
I just came away from a firm. It was tough because they had been a very seniority-based compensation system.
Right.
Very seniority-based. And what happens as you get older, you don't have to work as hard to make more money. And guess what? Many of them don't. And that's frustrating to the young bucks who want to see more performance recognition. And transitioning to a system that recognizes more performance, because the young bucks are going to leave if they perceive they're carrying dead wood. It's only so long before they're going to say, hey, I could get taken better care of somewhere else. So tune into your young folks who are going to carry the firm forth, I think. And often you have to fight that battle to the seniors that you talk. They have a lot vested in this current system. It's got them where they are today, and now you're going to change the rules on me? That's not fair. So you often get pushback from the seniors. So it's a balancing act here, because you can't make everybody happy. But what's in the best long-term interests of our firm is, I think, the right mindset to take. And I might upset some people along the way, but that's leadership. You're not there to make everybody happy. You're there to run a successful, profitable business. Here's that trend toward more objectivity. Here, is it open, easy? Is there a black box? We gave people a couple of choices here. Compensation setting is not always fun and easy. Kind of like making sausage at some firms can be a little rough and messy sometimes. Transparency. Here's a market trend. A trend toward more transparency in how we go about measuring performance and rewarding performance. Everybody sees each other's reports, numbers, and real market in the spirit of communication, trust building, team, showing a bit more transparency in terms of performance reports and compensation schedules. Market trend there, Uri. Market trend.
Absolutely. That's what the new generation wants, that we're recommending you really tune in on, is being fair. Pay for performance. We can talk about what that performance is, but then show me how we each get paid on that. Absolutely.
Yep. I left these in. We were going to take these out just in the interest of streamlining this, but I get a lot of questions over on this, the difference between the highest and lowest paid equity partner. And they're about 55%, more than half, say that multiple's about 3 or 4 between our lowest and highest paid equity partner. And as well as that spread tending to, spreading, or are we seeing more compression? And there's a nice, fairly even spread in terms of that differential between high and low. Our overall observations on comp, there's no perfect system, but it should reward, in my opinion, sharing, teamwork. It should evolve, and certainly take good care of your top performers, because if they start jumping ship because they feel they're not getting the fair shake, that's probably not a good situation. So tune into those top performers. I'm gonna pick up the pace, Uri, and run a little faster. We like to get managing partners on our programs, and it's great to tap into managing partners who are willing to share openly some things they're doing well, but some things they're challenged with. Bob Young, he used to chair the ABA's Law Practice Division. This is Bob. And John Pinney, he's a young managing partner, firm in Cleveland, Ohio, Emeritus firm, about 50 of them, as I recall. I love what John says. He's a very forward-thinking, business-oriented managing partner making change. Bob, just a dean over at the ABA and a big supporter of our programs. Here's what John Pinney had to say. COVID's an accelerator of all these trends we've been seeing. And alternative legal service providers, that's LegalZoom and Rocket Lawyer and those crowds. But John had some pretty bold things to say. Get rid of half your office space. Set up a hybrid, flexible workplace. Go paperless. Go to the cloud. Centralize your operations. I'm into it. I'm 100% with John. Technology's going to ride us there. John is a bold thinker. I love this program, and gets you really thinking about the future of law beyond COVID and where things are going in the big picture, jurisdictional boundaries, virtual law firms. Take a look at that regulatory sandbox. We've done programs on what's going on out in Arizona and Utah to allow for the non-lawyer ownership of law firms. And we're going to do a reprise on that with two managing partners, Arizona, Utah. Now that we've been into these sandboxes, these regulatory sandboxes for a year or more, what are we learning? Is it spreading? What didn't we anticipate? Winston Churchill. Here's another thing where we had two managing partners, Pinney, one of them, diametrically opposed on whether we can operate a law firm remotely. And interestingly, Michael Hurley, the gentleman on your right, is in New York, right in the heart of Midtown. Yep. And he's all about get your ass back in the office. We can't be a law firm working remotely. So his point was law firms got to run in person. And here's his case. Pretty strong case. But it does fly in the face of what young people are looking for. I mean, we've heard about the Great Resignation and the desire for flex time and remote working. I suspect Michael might lose some people. The counterpoint from Mr. Pinney is, no, we got to evolve, adapt. The consulting firms have done it. The accounting firms have done it. The banks are doing it. What makes law firms so different? And in terms of how you figure out your firm's remote working situation, ask your people where they want to be, how they want to work. And I think you'll hear overwhelmingly, we want flexibility. We want flexibility. And I think you'll hear it particularly loud from your women lawyers and support staff.
John, I just think on this debate, and it really is a great program where we really had point, counterpoint. I think it was excellently done.
It was a fun one. It was one of my favorites.
It was really a great program. I just think that one of the takeaways that I took from that program was if you are going to go into that remote or hybrid, you can't forget the collaboration. You have to work harder on the collaboration. You have to collaborate in a new way because most firms collaborated by saying, hey, Joe, I'm going to call the client. Come on down the hall. And so you can't do that anymore. You have to adapt. So I think everybody agrees collaborating is important. So you can't just put your head in the sand and say, okay, we're hybrid or we're remote, so we can't collaborate. You have to work hard. And some firms are working harder on collaborating, but you can't forget it's not one or the other.
I think it's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's going to be different. The world's changing. We're not an agrarian society anymore. And we've moved beyond the industrial age into the information age. And if we're not evolving and adapting to the world around us and what our employees want, what our clients want, we really are losing ground, and we're going to find ourselves selling buggy whips and work ourselves into extinction. So I think it's really, really important to evolve, adapt. Yeah, our history is very important, but I think our future is more important to the folks on the boat. So here we're going to move into our audience polling. We have about 18 minutes left, which is just about where we thought we would be. So that's some of our best of. Go take a look. There's a whole library of webinars. And if you've got suggested topics for future programs, we want to hear from you. So please, once we hang up from today, you'll be directed to a survey, and it'll ask you what you like, what you don't like, topics for the future. Please give us your input here. We want to hear from you and build programs that answer your issues and address your concerns. And if you don't tell us, we're not mind readers. So please give us your feedback either through the survey, shoot us an email, pick up the phone. If you've got ideas, we want to hear them because, we want to evolve and adapt. We've done that, Uri and I, with our programs here. We were about in-person events, and I haven't had an in-person event in 2 years. One of our questions before we jump into our polling here, Uri, was when do you see in-person events coming back? When people registered, we asked them what questions you have for the speakers, and that a couple of people asked that one. When do you see in-person events coming back?
You know what? It's interesting. One of the things that I think we've seen at a bunch of our clients is they become gun shy about having even back to the office. So let alone events. It's like,
right.
How many times can you put an event out there and then have to
cancel it again?
So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to predict. I'm not going to predict. I think I told you recently when this first started, I said May the latest, June the latest. And that was 220. So,
right.
We're in 2022 now.
I have tried to put together one of our managing partner conference twice now. I thought, all right, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're 6 months out from our fall event. I think we can go ahead, put it on the calendar, and start recruiting faculty and registrants. Only to undo it again. I'm hesitant to predict it as well when we have in-person events. I'm starting to do a few law firm retreats here and there. And just when we think it's safe to come outside, wham. And it varies by region of the country. It varies, there are a number of criteria there. But boy, I think in a way people can't wait to come back and break bread.
I do hear that.
And have fun together. But you got to be safe and sane. And if you've got partners who won't get vaccinated and refuse to wear masks, working through that in a way that, best we can. So here's our polling questions and what we think, Uri and I think, smart law firm leaders should be focused on in 2022. And that's find your community. Find your community of peers. Lead change. Pivot forward. Take what we've learned, anchor the good things into the culture, and pivot forward. We have learned that we can work remotely. We have learned that we can work in a more paperless environment. We have learned that we can, business can continue in spite of COVID. We've learned some good things. Let's anchor them in our culture, move forward, obsess about culture, and let's get into our questions and take us home. We have about 13 minutes. Finding communities. So many managing partners say, man, to have a group of peers to run my ideas by, learn how other firms are dealing with this, that, the other. You're not alone. You're not alone. Firms of all kinds are dealing with many of the same things, varying degrees. Find your community of peers. Maybe you set up a little group within your town of managing partners. You all get together every couple of months. Maybe you come to Uri's program. If you're in New York, New Jersey, he's got great things where managing partners can get together and share and learn from one another. We try to achieve communities through our virtual programs. We got a listserv out there. And I can't tell you how many managing partners will say, man, what a resource to be able to exchange and hear from other managing partners is fantastic. They didn't teach you how to lead lawyers in law school. And, ALA, if you're a firm administrator, is a great community. So go find your community and show up and participate and contribute. Uri, you've got a hell of a community you've built there in the Northeast. What's your advice to managing partners? How to find their group?
When people are not in a group, the biggest shock they come to our groups and they say, wow, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Not only am I not alone, but how amazing. I can learn from John and John can learn from me. So this is crucial and so easy to do when you learn from each other. So have you found your community?
Tell us. Yes. I've got a couple of them, in fact. Mm-hmm. That's cool. The law firm networks, Meritas, Lex Mundi, Tag Law, there are dozens of them, are setting up managing partner communities. And that's cool. And the beauty about that is you're with non-competing firms where you might get some more openness and sharing than if you were with a group of firms in your hometown. There may be concerns over antitrust, a lot of stuff we're not really willing to talk about with competitors. But finding that community and maybe finding one or two. Young Presidents Organization. It doesn't have to be a community of law firm managing partners. It might be a community of CEOs crossing industries. But managing partners who find the right group, plug in, get active, find them invaluable. If you haven't voted, please do. And let's share with you. 19% are looking. I think you found it. Check out Uri's offerings. Check out what we're offering and come back. Join the party. We'd love to have you. The doors are open. So get your community. Get involved. Appreciate it. Leading change. Leading change. Lawyers hate it. Larry Richard will tell us lawyers love precedent, hate risk, don't like change. But change is all around us. Let's go ahead and vote and ask this group how successfully they have been. How successful have you been leading change within your organization? Lord knows it ain't easy. And hopefully we're a catalyst to help you out here. I hear a lot of managing partners tell me, Uri, John, you give me the ammunition that I need to go make an argument to my partners. They're very persuaded by data and what other firms are doing.
John,
and so hopefully we're giving you some ammo.
Every time we do a managing partner roundtable meeting, somebody says, this is great stuff. I'm going to tell my partners what others are doing. Look at this.
Showcase the data. Lawyers are skeptics. Lawyers don't like change. They don't like risk. They love autonomy. Very analytical in their thinking for the most part. And they're very persuaded by data. And, there's a lot of reports, state of the profession reports. This time of year, Thomson Reuters comes out with a report. Citibank comes out with a report. I believe it's Hildebrandt comes out with a state of the profession report. The ABA does a state of the profession report. Cherry pick that data that reflects the changes you'd like your partners to absorb and present it. And, when you start presenting very similar data from different sources, it becomes credible and they start to buy in. My first boss was the CEO at a firm in South Florida, so good at identifying articles that ascribed to his point of view, and he'd circulate those articles among the partners. Wouldn't ascribe his opinion to it. We need to do this. Rather, he'd make them, hey, Dave, why aren't we doing this? So the idea to change becomes theirs. There's ownership, and brilliant at making the partners of the firm think that his ideas were theirs. And it was a matter of circulating data, circulate it again, circulate it from a different source. Hopefully folks start to listen. Here's how people have assessed their success in affecting change within the law firm. Great book I highly recommend called Leading Change. It's by John Kotter with a K. And I'll put it in the follow-up email we send everybody as a resource. But there's some great guidance there. And managing partners I've given this book to said, man, this was very, very helpful and helping me affect the change within my firm. Leading Change by John Kotter. Great book. The next thing we wanted to ask you all about, and there's the leading change, is culture. We think that law firm leaders need to not just appreciate culture, but obsess about the culture within their firms. Uri, speak to culture for me a little bit while I queue up our question.
Well, the culture is all you have, particularly when you're not in the same office, right? A lot of people envision the firm that we go to lunch together, we work together in the conference room. If you don't have a culture that's built based on values, it's going to be really felt as missing. And that's why doubling down, tripling down on culture has to be that high priority. We think it's really important.
Really, really important. And we shared with you that word cloud earlier.
Yeah.
Lawyers like to talk a good game about, oh, we're collegial. Yeah, we're collaborative. Yeah, we're a team. And they talk about it. And, you look at their behaviors and you find a lot of internal competition, a lot of mistrust.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about culture and making it live and breathe within your firm, really obsess about it. Make it live, make it breathe. And here's who our crowd today, when we asked how important is
very
culture,
important,
and that's
important.
consistent.
Oh,
Consistent. Yeah. It is very, very important. It's what makes your firm unique.
John, I think the example that you've given before, which is if collaboration is so important, how come you don't share origination credit? How come you don't share origination credit?
Yeah.
And yet we've seen that, and you've showed us so many times where it's not aligned, and alignment matters, and people know that, and people play that game.
Yeah. I think shared origination, sunset origination at the client level are interesting concepts to promote teamwork and sharing when it comes to rewards for business development. Practice group based origination credit, things like that. So yeah, your comp system has to align with and reward the cultural behaviors we want to see. And if it's sharing and teamwork and good citizenship, let's find ways to measure, recognize, reward, and stress how important they are to the bottom line. Communicate, 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 communicate. There's so many ways to do it. An internal newsletter, a monthly shareholder meeting, an annual firm retreat. That's not enough. I think talk, adult learning theory, folks have to hear it 7 times before they get it. Some of us are auditory, some of us are visual. Communicate creatively, but I don't think you can I don't think you can over communicate.
How do you think folks are doing in that?
Well, we're asking at the firm level, do you think there's adequate communication within your firm? Yes or no? We could talk about up down, across offices. So often multi-office firms, those offices operate like islands unto themselves. They don't communicate. I think industry practice groups are a great forum for us to share, communicate, figure out, where we are, where we want to be, and promoting a team approach to our marketing and business development program. So, Uri, what do you think folks think in terms of internal communication within their firms?
I think people think there is, and I'm not sure there is, but I'm not sure there really is.
Well, we sent an e-letter. We sent an email.
Right. We didn't define what adequate is, but I think that's right.
We sent an email. It's like,
right.
like we all religiously read and absorb our emails. That's just not enough to send an email. Communicate, say it again, say it in a different way, say it in a different place. But communication really, really important to building trust, team, sharing, and all these good things. And our last point, I think we're almost to the last point, that hybrid workplace. There's the thing on communication. I wasn't sure if I shared that. Here's the one on, is your firm moving toward a more hybrid, flexible, remote type workplace? Yes, no, not quite sure. And our votes are coming in. We are holding at about 80 registrants right now. And overwhelmingly, about 80, well, check that, 75% of you have voted on this question. So we have about 65 firms. And here's the data on that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like people are getting the message.
Yeah.
Early on, there were a lot of managing partners that now we need to get back, and we need to get back as soon as possible. This remote working thing will not work. I think we've seen a lot of folks come around on that. It can work. It does work. You've got to make it work if you want to attract and retain tomorrow's talent. This is our very last polling question. It's something we talk about frequently. It's never fun. Did I share that one, by the way?
Yes.
That result?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I sometimes get kind of stepped up. This is a mole. I got to click to get through these questions, and sometimes I forget. And this is the not so fun task of dealing with chronic underperformance and toxic personalities. We know you have them. Don't say you don't. Every firm has some level of underperformance, some difficult personalities. Does your firm effectively deal with these folks? Larry Richard, our psychologist friend, will tell us toxic personalities are so damaging to your culture more than you realize. Uri, give us your prediction. Do you think most firms on today's call are dealing effectively with bad actors?
I think they say they will. They do. Wow.
2/3 will admit.
I am.
We got people getting away with stuff. It impacts your culture.
John, you are and have been advising this for a long time. It is incredible in today's labor market in 2022, where that is the number one issue, how this dealing with the bad actors is so important. It is the number one reason why people leave law firms. Why should I stay here? I have so many opportunities, and they're tolerating this. That's it. I'll take that call.
It's been said that your firm culture is an expression of what you're willing to tolerate. It reflects what you're willing to tolerate. If you're willing to tolerate, just bad behavior, guess what? You'll get it. If you're willing to tolerate the chronic underperformance, we can all have off years, but if it's chronic and nothing's being done about it, is that okay? And calling that out, because your high performers don't want to carry what they perceive to be overpaid dead weight. Not good for the culture if we want to create a high performing, profitable, successful organization. So we shared that data, but there it is again. This is not fun. My friend Sharon Abrahams writes a lot about this. She's on our faculty and talks very persuasively about how important it is that law firms get a handle on the bad actors and the toxic personalities, and you give them a chance to fix it. But if it becomes apparent we're not seeing the effort or the desire, we gotta move along. We are right just beyond the top of the hour. We ran a minute long today. Sorry about that, everybody. Here's our contact information. You guys know how to find us. We'll send an email around tomorrow to everyone with all this data, handouts, links to some of the resources we represented. I hope it's helpful to you, to your firm, and that we see you again at a future MPF webinar and hopefully at an in-person program very, very soon. Uri, thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you, John.
Bye, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for being with us.